And for all speakers, is there a problem that you noticed that you couldn't solve or that you guys are still working on? So maybe like what's a big problem in your field of interest that people are still working on?
If I may, one of the things that's always attracted me to the field I'm in is that we'll never answer all the questions. There's always something coming up. If it's disease, something new and that can come along. If it's things like feed for aquaculture, we're trying to determine how to use less fish so that we can plant proteins, more sustainable technologies. And I think that's going to be a big key going forward is solving that sustainability issue while still making it affordable.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. So we can eat fish and things like that. And then the marine science in general, there's a lot of things we don't know. So I think that's going to be a never-ending field, at least in my lifetime, and I imagine in yours.
I'd like to add on to Gary's. Feed and energy are the two biggest consumers in aquaculture. Those are the two issues, especially in the state of Hawaii, where electricity is ridiculous on the rates.
Yeah.
That's what part of my work is with. I do renewable energies, and when the staff comes today, they'll see my farm is completely solar powered. Yeah, and that's part of the research in the scenario. So I'm doing smaller aquaculture, aquaponics, and hydroponic systems. So they're going to come and review that with me guys today. And there's another method, like touching on Gary's topic of feed. I'm using microbacteria and micronutrients like Moina, for instance, to do feeding for the babies for the first 6 months. So I cut the feed out. No commercial feed. So thank you, Gary.
I was thinking that in terms of the work that I do in a lot of education and outreach involves, people's behaviors around the ocean and how people view the ocean and how people are interacting with just the aquatic environment and the organisms in general. But one of the things that I found really interesting as I went through my career and kind of grew up a little bit was I really started to think about, let's say I wanted to become a scientist and study whale sharks and, learn all I could about them. The question eventually becomes, no matter what you're studying, what are you going to do with that information? And that's where I think, there's constantly has to be new solutions and new ideas because we learn all these great facts. We learn new methods of aquaculture. We learn new methods of growing things or, restoring the environment. But getting that to turn into action, getting that to turn into a regulation or a rule, if that's the case, getting that actual program is one of the things that we're always constantly working towards here within kind of the management side of aquatics. So think about, how some of those projects you guys might be working on may eventually lead to something that can help the state of Hawaii. But how do you scale that to eventually affect the whole state of Hawaii? Mm-hmm. So that's something that, we're always still working on, and hopefully you guys can be part of that solution.
But I just wanted to add, I definitely agree with Gary. There's always these problems or these questions, never-ending list of questions. That's part of developing an industry. Discovering new things, and also the speaker who just spoke. You talked about these solutions that you find. They have to apply to or be applicable or even practical to farmers, basically.
Thank you for that point, because when our students are designing their capstones and trying to come up with a problem and a potential solution, the practicality of it is a big thing for us because we only have so many resources and so much stuff we can do.
Everything that we do is really about solving the next bottleneck or solving the next problem. And that's sort of, to me, that's the fun.
Yeah.
And so part of this job is becoming comfortable with being faced with a series of problems and then trying to solve the next one. And then we also try and transfer the information to other people in the world who are trying to do this. It was a great article that came out yesterday. Some of my friends in South Africa are growing the same urchin, but they want to develop a large food industry. They have the space there. and the labor cost is very cheap, and the land is much cheaper than it is here. So they can probably grow this urchin for food there. And we get to use it as an environmental helper, an environmental control. In the Caribbean, they have a similar problem that we do here. There's lots of land-based pollutants and not enough herbivores, and so the lemur is getting out of control in the Caribbean. So they need more herbivores that they can sort of move around. So we're trying to develop an urchin hatchery in Puerto Rico. So those are the areas that we're focusing on.